All right, first big summer show of 2018. We've got 30 Seconds to Mars and Wellesley Arms and Walk the Moon and K.Flay. How are you?
I'm doing great.
It's really great to see you. I got to tell you this, though, kind of changing up the interview from where I thought it was going to go. I want to know about the fitness regime in which that you have, how you do it out there when it's 105 degrees, because I need to.
Okay, so we've just started something. We're calling it Witness the Fitness.
Okay.
It's good branding, right?
Right.
We're off to a good start. But basically, like, with a tour like this too, we have a lot of downtime.
Sure.
So we're trying to take like times when we could do bad things and do good things.
Oh, very good. So you're just kind of keeping yourself busy, more or less.
Sort of.
But then also doing something very good for your mind and for your body as well.
Exactly, because I feel like one of the things, there's like a weird cycle that can happen on tour where you get locked into this like never changing like Groundhog Day thing.
Sure.
And this is a good way to disrupt that potentially damaging cycle.
Absolutely so. But I mean, and also too, though, I mean, you're kind of able again to do something for the body as well as
and it's good for the mind.
Yeah.
It's very good for the mind.
You don't do well with downtime, I'm assuming. Like as far as like you get bored, probably super easy.
I do get pretty bored, yeah.
Well, what do you do like when you're not working, when you're not touring? I assume we've had this conversation before where I know you write a lot, where you're always doing something. But I would think downtime would almost be your enemy to a certain extent, just for you personally. You know what I mean? You probably don't dig it.
This is like a therapy session. Yes.
Yeah. I'm good at that.
I have trouble with quiet. So yeah, I'm working on that. I mean, for the most part, honestly, this last like couple of years has been pretty much work stuff,
right? Pretty
relentlessly, which is, I mean, I also just like making music pretty fundamentally, so that feels like it's always worthwhile, even if it's not going to be a song for me. If I'm just like trying to get better at guitar and recording riffs in my bedroom or something like that. But I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot. I do a lot of crossword puzzles.
Yeah.
Big crossword puzzle fan.
I've turned to the crossword puzzle game here recently, which is because it's never sort of been my thing.
Okay.
But then my two youngest like really got into it as the school year went on. So I found myself like actually buying like a crossword puzzle book at the grocery store in the checkout. Yeah. Now I'm only a couple in and I'm not very good at it, but it's a nice little challenge for the brain. You know what I mean? Like I find myself like actually probably using parts of my brain I wouldn't be using otherwise.
Yeah, we've been talking about this. Crossword puzzles are like an interesting skill, like a very specific skill. I was sort of like trained by my father to do them and be good at them. So I started doing like the New York Times Sunday puzzle, not like I needed help, but as a young kid. And you kind of learn like there's a language to crossword puzzles that you develop over time. So you kind of have to do them to be good at them. Like a lot of really smart people aren't that great at crossword puzzles if they haven't done a lot of them.
How young, like when you say you're doing this, like how young are you saying that you started doing it?
I mean, well, he was always doing them, so I was around them, but I probably started helping around like 7 or 8 or something like that. I wasn't very good.
But still, I mean, but to be able to be a part of that process and help in any way, shape, or form at 7 or 8 is pretty stinking impressive.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely so. I want to go back a little bit about the whole Grammy process. And I know you had a chance to talk to Lux about this. But I want to know, like, how do you find out about something like that? When you do find out, what are those first couple minutes like? And then I can imagine the calls that you're making after the fact have to be some of the most fun and exciting phone conversations and calls that you've ever made.
Yeah. Actually, Brandon, who's not pictured here, but he's standing in this room, he's off camera. He's here, though. You called me. At like what? Oh, he tried calling. Oh no, Lauren. Right. Okay. So I live with like one of my best college friends in LA in a house, and so she came into my room, and I'd just gotten off tour, so I was like trying to sleep in a little bit, or not even sleep in, just like sleep till 9 or something.
Right.
And she came into my room and was like knocking, and she's like, "I'm really sorry, like." You have to talk to Brandon. So Brandon had tried calling me. I didn't pick up because it was on silent.
Right.
Because I'm not a monster. I have my phone on silent while I sleep. And he was like, "Yeah, you got nominated for 2 Grammys. Call your mom, and then you have to do a radio interview." So I did that.
That's just unbelievable because I mean,
and I didn't know I had, by the way, no awareness of them being announced. Or I didn't know I was submitted or anything like that. You know what I mean?
I just can't even imagine. Because then it's got to be, even as you're telling these people, it's got to be kind of surreal, like, wow, this is amazing.
It's very bizarre. I mean, as someone who has always kind of had the like DIY indie background, I guess some of those like kind of like mainstream things feel like in a separate world.
Absolutely.
And so it was quite shocking, but good, you know.
But I also
nice.
think for the Grammys, I mean, I think it adds legitimacy when they're putting some really great artists on there that might be still bubbling a little bit underground. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes some of those awards, like, they don't, at least even for me as a music fan, they just seem kind of far off. And so then when, you know, some of my people are nominated for those as well, it seems to kind of relate a little bit more. I want to talk about collaborations real quick, because the one that you did with Robert DeLonge is absolutely phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Where does that come up? How did that come up? Because the first time that I heard that song, and like a lot of times with music, and I talk about it with interviews a lot, like it, even if it's something that I like, it takes me a minute to really kind of grip it. With that song, that was not it. I was about halfway through when Robert's rep was playing it for me, that I was like, oh man, I can't wait to put this on the radio. Like, it's just so good. How did that come about?
Thank you. It actually came about very organically. So Rob and I are like neighbors. He lives like a couple minutes away from me. I can walk to his house. I actually, unbeknownst to myself, I was walking by his house. I just didn't know him yet. But we had gotten introduced and we're like, oh, we should work on something, but it was kind of like nothing was happening yet, or I was on the road or he was on the road or something. But I was having a party at my house, and so I invited him, and everyone drank a lot of alcohol at the party.
Imagine that.
Imagine that at a fun party in my backyard. And we had set up, we were going to write the next day, just at he has a studio in his garage. And we both woke up like struggling big time. But we're both very reliable people, so we both showed up, we got breakfast, both felt terrible, and just went to his place. And I was like in a fugue state personally, like I was like having some kind of like manic episode. And I actually believe that hangovers are pretty creatively productive if you choose to view them with a positive lens.
Sure.
And so we just like wrote that song in a couple hours. We were just like in a crazy state of mind, and I think we'd had like the bonding experience the night before. And what's actually really cool is since that time, he and I have become really good friends, like actually. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it sparked a real thing.
When it's somebody that you know but you don't like really know, you know, I mean, I would that has to make it a little tougher for when you're in the studio or something, right? Or is it the exact opposite of that? Because you, at some point, you got to be the one to be like, I don't particularly like that part, or we need to redo this, or what have you.
I think there's, you know, and I've thought about this a lot, because when you're, you know, as a solo artist, you know, I'm not part of a band. So the producer that I'm working with is often like that other person. So I'm always kind of thinking about that relationship and that collaboration. I think there's some kind of like apex of intersection of like familiarity and tension. I'm not sure what the two words are exactly, but where you do feel comfortable to say like, no, we can do better, or you can do better in a nice way, and also feeling like you can be vulnerable truly, because that's what ultimately makes for good music, I think.
Absolutely.
So you want to have that kind of balance between like knowing someone, but also feeling like you want to impress someone, or you want to challenge someone, and you're willing to be challenged too.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great to talk to you again, K.Flay. I always have the worst time when we're doing interviews like this with the table of knowing what to do with my hands.
Oh!
You know what I'm saying? You're a champ, and that's where it
down.
went. But then what happened is I started low, and then I came up, and then I didn't know where to go from there, and so it's just been a disaster for the last 30 seconds.
Just to put it in perspective, I did not notice any bizarre hand movements, arm movements on your part.
We like to keep it that way. I try to consider myself a bit of a professional.
I'll do some weird stuff now just to make up for what
I don't know how it's going to go. It's K.Flay, Big Summer Show. Thank you very much, as always. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much.